In 1943, during World War II, British and American soldiers went into Italy to fight. At that time, Italy was on the side of Germany and Japan, called the Axis powers. The British and American soldiers captured the southern part of Italy and took control of that area. Because of the war, there was not enough food, clothes, or other important things in the south of Italy. This caused big problems for the people living there. So many people started using the black market. This means they bought and sold things in secret, not following the law, just so they could stay alive and take care of their families. In big cities like Naples, people who had food like vegetables or fruit began to trade it. They traded their food for things that the soldiers had, such as soap, chocolate, or clothes. This way, both people and soldiers got things they needed by swapping what they had. Because it was hard to find food in the cities, some people hid on cargo trains. These are trains that carry goods, not people. They did this to travel secretly to farms in the countryside where there was more food. They took food from the farms and then brought it back to the city to trade or sell to other people. The railway companies had a problem because they did not have enough good coal to run their trains. So they started using poor quality coal, which could not provide enough power to trains and also generated a lot of poisonous gas. On the evening of March 2nd, 1944, a freight train, which is used to carry goods, not people, called 8017 left the city of Naples and was going to Potenza. The train had 47 freight cars, and it was very heavy, about 520 tons. Even though it was not meant for passengers, many people secretly got on the train without paying, trying to travel without being caught. The first part of the train's trip was on flat land, and it was pulled by an electric engine. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the train reached a town called Battipaglia. After that, the train had to go on a steep railway with hills, and this part of the track did not have electric power because this part required more powerful engines. So the electric engine was taken off, and they added 2 steam engines instead to pull the train. At a town called Eboli, some people who were hiding on the train, called stowaways, were forced to get off. But at the next few stops, even more people got on. In the end, there were about 600 people on the train, which was way too many. The train was now very overloaded. At midnight, the train reached a station called Balvano Risiliano. This was the last stop before the disaster. There, the train stopped for a short time so workers could check and fix the engines. At 12:50 a.m., the train started moving again, heading toward the next station called Bellamuro. It was going slowly at about 15 kilometers per hour, which is about 9 miles per hour. After going for about 1.8 kilometers, a little over 1 mile, the train came to a long, narrow tunnel called the Army Tunnel. This tunnel was almost 2 kilometers long, and it had a slight uphill slope, 1.3%. As the train went into the tunnel, the wheels started slipping because the tracks were wet from moisture. Even though the train tried to use sandboxes, a system that drops sand on the rails to help with grip, it didn't work well. The train kept losing speed until it finally stopped completely, with almost the whole train stuck inside the tunnel. The air inside the tunnel was already full of smoke because another train had gone through just a short time earlier. When the train drivers tried hard to start the train again, the engines made even more smoke, filled with carbon monoxide, a dangerous gas you can't see or smell. This gas slowly filled the tunnel. The people inside, both the train crew and the passengers who were hiding, started to breathe in the poison. It happened so slowly and quietly that most people didn't even know they were in danger. Many of them fell asleep and never woke up. They died in their sleep. A few people survived, and most of them were in the last few train cars, which were still outside the tunnel, where the air was cleaner. There were 2 drivers of this train. At some point, the driver of one of the engines, the 476, tried to put the train in reverse to get out of the tunnel. But before he could do it, he fainted because of the poison gas in the tunnel. Also, he couldn't talk to the other driver in the second engine, the 480, to make a plan. This was because the 476 engine was made in Austria and had the controls on the right side, while the 480 engine was Italian and had the controls on the left side. So the 2 drivers were sitting on opposite sides of the train and couldn't see or speak to each other easily. Because of this, the 480 engine kept pushing forward, while the other engine was trying, but failed, to go backward. At 5:10 in the morning, the station master at Balvano found out about the disaster. He was told by the brakeman, a crew member from the last train car, who had walked back to the station to get help. At 5:25, another engine was sent to help, but when it got to the tunnel, there were so many dead bodies on the tracks that it couldn't pull the train out. Only about 40 people in the last few train cars, which were outside the tunnel, were still alive and could be helped. At 8:40, another rescue team arrived. This time, they were able to pull the train back to the station. Out of the whole train crew, only two survived: the brakeman from the last car and the fireman, a helper who worked with the engine, from the second steam engine. Because there were so many dead bodies, and it was wartime, when things like money, supplies, and workers were limited, most of the people who died did not get a proper funeral. Only the train workers were given a proper burial with a funeral. The stowaways, the people who were secretly riding the train, were poor, and many of their families couldn't afford a funeral. So they were buried together in 4 large graves at the Balvano cemetery, and there was no religious ceremony held for them. A total of 517 people lost their lives in the Balvano train disaster, which is considered the deadliest railway accident in Italian history.